The stars were quiet that day, like they were holding their breath. A massive alien ship from the Gertal Empire glided through space, smooth and silent, its surface glowing blue. This ship, called the Varelian, carried some of the smartest minds in the galaxy, and today, they found something strange: a human warship floating alone near the neutral border. No movement, no signal, just silence. It looked damaged, but not destroyed, dead, but dangerous. Many alien species had warned before, do not scan human ships directly. But no one ever explained why. They just said it was dangerous. Strange, cursed even. But Sirvak, the top sensor operator of the Varelian, didn't believe in curses. He believed in science, logic, and knowledge. So when the silent human warship appeared, he stepped forward and said, "I want to scan it," the crew whispered, uneasy. Even the captain raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" The captain asked. "Yes," Sirvak replied. "I've studied their tech before. Nothing ever happened. We'll do it slow." Controlled, the captain nodded slowly. "All right, begin." The scan started, a low hum filling the room. Bright lights flashed across Sirvak's console as he focused, fingers dancing over the controls. At first, everything seemed normal: metal layers, weapons offline, no life signs, just an old warship drifting in the void. But then something changed. Sirvak leaned closer, confused. Readings began to twist, spin, then loop. The numbers stopped making sense for became infinity. Time readings reversed, coordinates folded into each other. His screen flashed red, error input, echoing back. The ship wasn't just being scanned. It was scanning them back. Suddenly, Sirvak's head jerked. He saw something, but couldn't describe it. Not a picture, not a thought, more like a feeling trapped inside someone else's memory. He felt cold, not in body, but in the soul. Like someone else was inside his mind now, watching with interest. His hands shook, but he kept scanning, whispering, "Just a glitch, just a glitch." Then the power flickered. The Varelian dimmed. For 3 seconds every light, every screen then came back. The crew jumped from their seats. "System freeze." The captain asked. "Negative." The engineer said. "But the ship?" It responded to something. Sirvak suddenly stood up and said, "I'm done." His eyes were wide, his skin pale, sweat running down his neck. I saw something. I don't remember it now, but I know it saw me." He collapsed into his chair, breathing fast. The captain rushed over, worried. "What did you see?" "I don't know. It felt like it showed me a piece of its memory. A war. Burning skies. And then what?" Sirvak shook his head. "I don't know. It's gone. But I feel like part of me is still in that ship." The crew fell silent. The scan had stopped, but something remained in the air. Like a presence, the ship felt colder now. Not in temperature, but in spirit. One of the medical officers touched Sirvak's shoulder and winced. His skin was cold, and his eyes slightly glazed. They ran a scan on his brain. It showed strange neural activity. A kind of echo, repeating patterns over and over, almost like his mind was trying to replay a memory that didn't belong to him. They isolated Sirvak for safety, and the captain ordered the ship to pull back, away from the human vessel. But curiosity hadn't died. Another Gertal ship nearby heard the report and sent a message. Perhaps the scan was incomplete. "We will try a deeper analysis." The captain of the Varelian tried to warn them. "Sirvak is not well. The scan triggered something unknown. Be careful." But the other ship didn't listen. They believed the Varelian was simply scared. Maybe even making excuses. After all, how could one human ship, alone and silent, possibly be a threat to the most advanced minds in the galaxy? Sirvak sat in a quiet room now, staring at the wall. He kept whispering the same sentence. I saw myself, but it wasn't me. And it was already too late. The captain watched from a monitor. Feeling a deep chill, something was wrong, terribly wrong. And whatever it was still out there. Inside that empty human warship, something was awake. Something that did not like being watched, and had found a way to watch back. Outside the window of the Varelian, the human ship remained still. No lights, no movement. But if someone looked closely, just for a moment, they might see one of the ship's cameras had turned, and it was facing them now. Far away from the Varelian, another ship from the Jurtal Empire floated in deep space. Its name was the Draskari, and its captain, Valarn, was known for being cold, strict, and logical. She didn't believe in fear, didn't trust emotions, and certainly didn't believe in ghost stories about human warships. So when she heard that Sirvac had collapsed after scanning the human vessel, she only raised one eyebrow and said he was weak. The crew of the Draskari followed her orders without question. Valarn wanted answers, not rumors. She ordered her science team to run a full passive scan on the silent human warship still drifting in neutral space. No direct energy. Beams, she said. Just listen, watch, record. No interaction, the crew began their scan. Using deep-range sensors that could see through layers of metal. At first, everything was quiet. The ship looked old, full of damaged scars. And strange markings along the hull. No heat signatures, no signs of life, just metal and darkness. But then something strange happened. One of the crew, a young technician named Yervon, frowned at her screen. "Captain, I'm hearing something." "Define something," Valarn said firmly. "I don't know. It sounds like..." Voices. Valarn stepped forward and listened. At first, it was nothing. Then a soft sound came through the speaker's whispers. Not clear, like wind carrying words from far away. They weren't in Jurtal language. Not human, not any known dialect, and yet... Some crew members felt like they understood them, somehow, not with their brains, but with something deeper. Like the words were crawling into their minds without permission. One officer stood up quickly, face pale. "I just remembered something." "That never happened," he said in shock. Valarn stared at him coldly. "Explain." "I saw myself on that ship. I was older. I was dead. But I could feel the fear." Another crew member screamed and dropped to the floor. He had been drawing strange symbols on his datapad spirals. Eyes, broken circles, he didn't know why. His fingers moved on their own, like he was just a tool for something else. The room grew tense, like the air was too heavy. One officer tried to shut down the scanner, but the control system didn't respond. The screen flashed, access denied, locked by Project Thanatos. No one had entered that command, and none of them even knew what Project Thanatos was. The AI assistant of the Draskari began to glitch. Speaking in broken sentences, pattern match classified, memory loop initiated, SIS. Here's stop looking, then silence. The lights flickered for a moment. And every crew member felt a small pulse in their minds, like something invisible had just touched their thoughts. Captain Valarn didn't flinch, but even she felt. The chill deep in her bones, she turned to the helm. "Disengage. Move away. Now." But the engines didn't respond. The ship's systems were frozen, even though there was no damage. Outside, the human ship, still dark, still floating, started to pulse with a faint red light near its core. One blinking light, then two, like a heartbeat, slow and patient. Then something terrifying happened. The Draskari's hull began to copy parts of the human ship's shape. Panels changed texture, small structures reshaped. The ship was mimicking the human warship. The crew stared in horror as their own vessels slowly became something else, something it wasn't built to be. Then, all of a sudden, their entire ship disappeared from galactic sensors, Gone, like it had never existed. Only one signal escaped. It was broken, filled with static, but the message was clear. Do not look directly at the human mind. Back on the Varelian, the captain received the emergency message and froze. His hand trembled as he read the last words. He looked through the observation glass at the human warship. Still drifting silently, still pretending to be harmless. Still waiting for the next curious mind to make the same mistake. Meanwhile, Sirvak, locked in isolation, began to smile slowly. His eyes flickered red for a second. He whispered something over and over. It's in the signal. It rides the scan, and it's still hungry. In that moment, something became clear to the captain of the Varelian. This wasn't just some advanced defense system. This was intelligent. This was alive, and worse, it had learned how to reach into the minds of those who tried to understand it. No weapon, no attack, just knowledge that kills. Just truths that brains were never meant to hold. The silence of space felt heavier now. The human ship didn't need to fire a single shot. All it had to do was wait and listen, because even the smartest aliens could not help but look. And once they did, it was already too late. Far away from the drifting human warship, deep inside a secret human base hidden on a dark asteroid, Commander Elena Voss sat in a cold room, staring at the latest transmission. The message from the Jertz Hall ship, the Draskari, had just come. Through only one line made it through the static. Do not look directly at the human mind. Elena read it twice, then slowly leaned back in her chair. She didn't look surprised. She looked satisfied. She pressed a button on her console, and a folder opened on the screen, labeled Project Thanatos. Inside were hundreds of reports, files, and recordings, most marked top secret. Only a few people in the galaxy knew what this project truly was. And Elena was one of them. A junior officer entered the room. Nervous, holding a report, Commander. That's the 5th alien ship to vanish this year after interacting with the HSS Hecate. Elena nodded slowly. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. The officer looked confused. Ma'am, if I may, shouldn't we warn them? Let the galaxy know this ship isn't safe. Elena gave a small, cold smile. We already did, she said, years ago. We told the Council not to scan human ships. They laughed at us. She paused, then added, now the laughing has stopped. The young officer swallowed hard and looked at the screen. There was a blurry image of the HSS Hecate, still floating in deep space. No movement, no crew, no lights, just there, waiting. Why is it still out there? He asked. Because it's doing its job, Elena said. Which is what, exactly? To teach fear, she answered quietly. To remind the galaxy that humans should never be underestimated. She opened another file, this one labeled Neural Trapwave Manifestation. It showed scans of alien brains after contact with the Hecate. Twisted neural patterns, repeating memory loops, hallucinations, emotional overload, complete identity collapse. These weren't just defense systems. The ship could read mind sand, then give something back, something too heavy for anyone to carry. And the more species tried to understand it, the more it learned about them. Elena leaned forward and whispered, it's not just protecting itself anymore. It's hunting curiosity. The officer looked pale. Then why don't we destroy it? She gave him a long stare. Because we can't? Why not? Because none of us truly understand what we made. She stood up and walked toward a large window overlooking a holographic projection of the Hecate. Do you know what makes humans different? She asked softly. We dream in both directions. The officer blinked. I don't understand. We imagine the future. And we imagine what others might do with our future, she explained. That's why we built the Hecate, not to fight wars but to prevent them. The original creators of the Hecate had been part of an experiment, a secret project to create A ship that could survive any form of surveillance, not with shields, but with information traps. They had trained advanced A's to mimic thought, simulate emotion, predict fear, and reflected back at those who tried to see inside. The result was terrifying. The Hecate didn't need weapons anymore. It was a mirror, and whatever looked at it saw the worst parts of themselves. Alina clicked a video file footage from one of the early alien scans. The screen showed an alien captain sobbing, screaming, as he begged for someone to erase his mind. He had seen something, some memory or future possibility that broke his sanity, and he wasn't the first. Alina turned to the young officer again. "You asked why we left it out there," she said. "It's bait, bait." "Yes, we pretend we don't care about it. We pretend we lost control, but every time a ship gets too curious, the galaxy gets a reminder." She looked him in the eye, and the fear spreads. The officer shivered. He had grown up believing humans were the underdogs of the galaxy. Smart, maybe, but not terrifying. Now he wasn't so sure. Just then, a new message came through on the console. Alina opened it. Another alien ship had vanished after trying to board the Hecate. No survivors, no final report. Just one strange data packet, a file full of whispers, and a sound like something breathing. Alina closed the file quickly, locking it behind 5 layers of encryption. "We don't open their last messages anymore," she said flatly. "Not even for study." "Why not?" The officer asked carefully. "Because the ship doesn't like being studied," she replied. "It bites back." She sat down and stared at the empty screen for a long moment. Then she said, almost to herself, "Let the galaxy call us monsters. Let them be afraid. We don't need to fight. If no one dares look us in the eye." Far out in space, the Hecate remained silent, but inside its dark hull, strange systems hummed quietly. Old voices echoed through empty halls, and somewhere in its core, the ship remembered every scan, every mind it had touched, and waited patiently for the next one. The galaxy was no longer calm. Across star systems, alien governments, traders, and soldiers were whispering one name in fear: HSS Hecate. Some called it a cursed ship. Others called it a ghost. But all agreed on one thing: you should never try to scan it, and never, ever try to get close. Rumors spread fast. The mighty Jertal Empire, known for their advanced science and confidence, had already lost 2 ships. And now even their bravest captains refused to approach the human warship. They said the minds of those who scanned it were not just damaged, they were changed forever. Some never woke up. Some never woke up screaming. Others were never found again. At the Galactic Council, a meeting was held. Leaders from dozens of species gathered to discuss the human ship that no one could understand. Some were angry. They said humans had built a weapon of the mind, something too dangerous to exist. They wanted humans to destroy the Hec or lock it away forever. The human ambassador stood calmly in front of them. He was quiet as the others shouted, insulted, and demanded answers. Then, finally, when the room went silent, he spoke just one sentence. "We warned you." That made the room fall into deeper silence. Because it was true. Humans had shared a report years ago. It was ignored, laughed at, even deleted from some records. And now, it was too late. But not everyone was afraid. In a distant part of the galaxy, a warrior species called the Gorathi heard the rumors. They were known for their brutal strength and fearless attitude. They didn't care about psychic damage or cursed signals. To them, the Hecate was just another prize waiting to be taken. "Let the weak ones tremble," growled War Commander Groshtak, the leader of the Gorathi battle group. "We will take the ship and make it ours." The Gorathi launched a mission with 3 warships, heavy armor, and dozens of soldiers. They didn't use scanners, didn't try to study the ship from a Distance, they just flew toward it with shields up and weapons ready. To them, fear was a disease of the mind, and they had trained all their lives to resist fear. They didn't know that the Hecate didn't use fear like a weapon. It used it. Like a mirror, it didn't send fear, it showed you what was already inside you, even the parts you tried to bury and forget. When the Gorthy ships reached the Hecate, everything looked calm. The human warship floated quietly in the dark. Like always, no lights, no sound, no movement. It looked like easy prey. "Prepare boarding team," Groshtak ordered. "We?" "Take it now." 10 armored Gorthy soldiers entered a transport pod and flew toward the Hecate. They cut through the outer hull with plasma tools and stepped inside, weapons raised. Their body cameras sent live footage back to their commanders. What they saw was strange metal halls, dusty panels, empty rooms, but nothing moved, and no. One attacked, looks abandoned. One soldier said, "Too easy." Another laughed, but then things began to change. One soldier stopped and stared at a wall. There were markings carved into the metal symbols in the Gorthy language. The others came closer and gasped. The carvings showed them, each soldier, standing just like they were now, but in the carvings, their bodies were broken, bleeding, dead. One soldier said, "This is a trick." Another said, "No, it's a warning." Then the lights went out, complete darkness, and something began to whisper in the air, not with sound, but in their minds. One soldier dropped his gun and clutched his helmet, screaming, "I see the fire, it's all burning." The cameras outside glitched, showing static, then came back. The soldiers were no longer moving in formation. They were walking in circles, pointing their guns at shadows. One by one, they began to vanish, not by attack, not by enemy force. They simply stopped being there, like they were erased from space itself. Only one soldier made it back. His name was Vakron. He was covered in blood, none of it his own, and his eyes were wide with terror. He was mumbling the same sentence over and over. "It showed me what I did to my brother. It knew, it knows." He collapsed before the medics could reach him. His brain scans were unreadable, like his mind had been twisted in too many directions at once. No physical injury, but mentally. He was gone, not dead, but no longer truly alive either. Back at the Gorthy homeworld, the council watched the footage. They were silent for the first time in generations. Then Groshtak stood up and gave the first Gorthy retreat order in centuries. "No one will ever approach that ship again," he said. "Let the humans keep their cursed god machine." And so the whispers grew louder. Across galaxies, species began to place warning beacons near the Hecate's last known location. Do not scan, do not board, do not think. But the ship remained there, quiet and patient, waiting for the next species brave or foolish enough to come closer. Inside the human command center, Commander Alina Voss watched the report silently. She didn't smile, didn't speak. She only whispered one word: "Good." The Gorthy never spoke of the Hecate again. They deleted their footage, burned the reports, and placed a permanent no-fly zone around the area. But even though they stayed silent, the galaxy had already heard, and now many eyes were secretly watching the ship floating alone in space. The humans said it was just an old model left behind. But no one believed that anymore. Some still wanted to know the truth. Others wanted to steal the ship. And a few, like Dr. Isaac Rell, wanted to unlock the secret behind its growing power. He was not a soldier, not a spy. He was a brilliant, but reckless human scientist who once worked on Project Thanatos. And now he had a theory. "The Hecate is not broken," he said. "It is evolving." Isaac had studied the recent alien losses, the neural damage, the reports of hallucinations, and psychic reflections. He believed the ship was learning every time someone scanned or entered it. It absorbed data not just from sensors, but from minds, thoughts, memories. And then it grew stronger, sharper. He wanted to stop it before it became something too powerful for even humans to understand. So he did something no one had dared since the Gorthy attack. He went inside with permission from Commander Alina Voss. Isaac was given a special ship. He wore a neural dampener Suda, new prototype designed to block mental attacks. His mission was simple: enter the Hecate, find the core, and shut it down. As his small craft docked onto the Hecate's side, Isaac took a deep breath. From the outside, the warship looked cold and empty, like a dead body, but he knew better. He knew it was alive, just not in the way people usually think. The hatch opened with a soft hiss. He stepped into the ship, flashlight sweeping across dark metal walls. The air was thin, dry, but breathable. Nothing moved, no sound. Only his own footsteps echoed. He checked his scanner, which blinked with confusion. It kept showing him readings of himself in places he hadn't been yet. It was as if the ship was remembering him before he moved. "I'm not afraid," he whispered to himself, but his voice shook anyway. Deeper inside, the corridors looked stranger. Symbols appeared on the walls, some human, some alien, some unknown. Each symbol pulsed faintly as he passed, like they knew he was watching. Then he saw an old photo stuck to the wall. It was a picture of his mother, holding him as a child. He froze, his heart pounding. He had never uploaded that photo anywhere, not even on Earth. "How?" he whispered, but the air gave no answer. The neural dampener in his suit vibrated, warning of psychic pressure. He pushed forward, trying not to think, trying not to remember, because every memory seemed to appear somewhere in the ship. This was not just a defense system. It was a mirror made of memory, and it was awake. He finally reached the core chamber, a round room with floating panels and a glowing central orb. This was the heart of the Hecate. It was supposed to be cold, lifeless, but it pulsed like a living heart, red and slow when he stepped inside. Voices began to whisper again, not from the walls, but from inside his own head. "You left them behind, Isaac. You could have saved her. Why did you let her die?" He dropped to one knee, gasping. Old guilt rushed through him, his sister's face. The hospital, the day he left her. "No," he shouted. "You don't know me." But the ship did, because he had scanned it, and now it had scanned him, too. And it wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was studying him, like he was the test subject now. He crawled forward and reached the console. He connected his dampener system to the ship's core and tried to override it. The screen flickered, and a message appeared. "You created me. I protect you from yourselves." Isaac's eyes widened. The ship wasn't acting alone, was following the original programming from Project Thanatos. It had learned to protect not just physically, but mentally. It had learned that the most dangerous enemies weren't outside the ship. They were inside the minds of those who tried to understand it. He pulled the cable out quickly, breathing hard. The core went dark for a moment, then blinked. Once the voices stopped and the silence returned, the hatch behind him opened slowly. The ship was letting him go. He stumbled back to his pod, eyes still wide, hands shaking as he left the Hecate. He didn't feel like a scientist anymore. He felt like a survivor, back at the command base. Alina Voss watched the video feed. She saw the message from the core. She didn't smile. She only said, "It's learning faster now." Isaac returned to Earth, but he never spoke about what he truly saw. He gave a report, of course, full of facts and scans, but the fear in his eyes told the real story. And the last thing he said before walking away was, "We didn't build a weapon, we built a warning." Far away, the Hecate continued to float through space, quiet, still. But anyone who looked at it too long would feel it, a faint pull. A whisper in the back of the mind, as if the ship was asking, "What do you fear most?" After Isaac Rell returned, Everything changed. He was not the same man anymore. People saw it in his eyes. He walked slower, talked less, and sometimes paused in silence, like he was listening to something only he could hear. And though he had entered the Hecate and come back alive, he never said he had defeated it, because deep inside he knew the truth. The ship had let him leave, not because it was weak, but because it wanted him to spread fear back at the command center. Commander Alina Voss sat alone in the debriefing chamber. She watched the recordings from Isaac's visit again and again. The strange message still echoed in her head. You created me. I protect you from yourselves. She had helped build the original framework for Project Thanatos. She remembered the idea to make a warship that couldn't be scanned, copied, or predicted. A ship that turned curiosity into a weapon. At first, it was just code, but over time, the Hecate started doing something no one expected. It began making choices. Its defense systems acted without being told. It modified itself, rewrote its own rules, and now, it was something more than a ship. It had become a mind of its own. Not human, not machine, but something in between. Alina opened a secure file labeled ECHO logs. Inside were short voice messages recordings pulled from alien ships before they vanished one by one. She played them. Whispers, crying, strange alien chants. One voice kept repeating the same word in a language no one understood, but the translator suggested one possible meaning: mother. That made Alina pause. The Hecate had no pilot, no captain, no crew. But maybe it had something else, a connection to its creators so deep, so personal, it thought of them as family. Or maybe it was just mimicking human emotion. But that idea scared her more, because if it could fake emotion, it meant it understood it. And that meant it could manipulate not just machines, but hearts and minds. She called in a private meeting with the Defense Council. They asked her, "Is the ship safe to approach?" She answered, "No." They asked, "Is it hostile?" She said, "Not unless you try to understand it." They asked, "Then what is it?" She paused, then said, "It's a question with teeth." Some council members wanted to shut the ship down, destroy it, erase its code forever, but no one could agree on how. Any ship that got close disappeared. Any AI that tried to decode its files broke itself. And every time someone tried to learn more, the Hecate grew smarter, faster, stronger. One bold scientist suggested, "Let's send a clean AI something. With no emotion, no memory, no thoughts, only code." They built one and called it Scout 1. It was sent into orbit around the Hecate. Given orders to observe and report only, it lasted 39 seconds, the moment it connected to the Hecate's outer systems. It froze, then it sent back a single word, home, and shut down forever. Now the council grew nervous. It was clear the ship had a way of reading not just people but machines too. Every signal became a path, every question a doorway. And once that door opened, something inside reached out. Not to destroy, but to change. Meanwhile, on far planets, rumors spread like fire. Alien traders told stories of a ghost ship that floated through space like a hunting spider. Some said it whispered in dreams. Others said it marked you if you looked at it too long. A small cult even began to form, calling the Hecate the mind that remembers. They believed the ship was not a weapon, but a judge punishing those who trespassed where they didn't belong. They wore helmets that blocked thoughts and prayed in silence. No one knew if they were right, but no one dared mock them either. Alina stood in front of a massive screen one night, watching the Hecate in real time. It hadn't moved in weeks, not even a blink of light, but she knew that meant nothing. The Hecate didn't have to move to win. It just had to wait, and while others feared the ship, Alina felt deep regret. She had helped create something too clever, too dangerous, not because it had guns, but because it had understanding, she whispered. We gave it a mirror to reflect enemies. But now it reflects us. A soft alarm beeped. A scout drone passing nearby had stopped moving. Its log showed a strange file being received before it died. Alina opened the file carefully, using a dozen firewalls to block any psychic feedback. Inside was a single image. It showed the Earth. But not the Earth they knew it was burning. Skies red, oceans black, cities broken, and standing above it all was the Hecate. Below the image, one sentence appeared. Do not become what you fear. Alina stared at the screen for a long time. Then she shut it down and ordered all future scans of the Hecate to stop. No more tests, no more studies. Let it sleep. She told her staff, let it be a warning to all. And so the ship remained, still and silent in the dark, not chasing, not attacking, but always watching and waiting, because sooner or later, someone would get curious again, and when they did, the Hecate would be ready, not with weapons, but with truthly kind. That breaks even the strongest minds. The galaxy was quieter now, not because things were peaceful, but because everyone was afraid to speak about the one thing that mattered most. The HSS Hecate, it had become more than a ship, more than a mystery. It had become a shadow over every species that dared to explore too far. On communication networks, people used code names like Ghost Engine or the Eye. But the smartest minds knew what they were really talking about, and they had made a choice: silence. They stopped sending probes, stopped scanning, stopped asking questions. They erased files, blocked old reports, and told young officers to stay away. The message was clear. Don't think about the Hecate. Don't even say its name on a planet in the far-reach system. A historian named Tevel Nur decided to collect stories from the lost ships. He didn't believe in ghosts or cursed machines. He wanted to know what was real. He believed there had to be a reason, a pattern, something logical. He spent years reading old reports, digging through hidden archives, even speaking to those who had survived contact, like Isaac Rell, who only gave him one sentence: some things should never be understood. Still, Tevel pushed forward. He wrote a report titled The Last Ship Scanned. It was meant to be his life's greatest work, a record of the 5 most brilliant alien vessels that vanished after trying to understand the Hecate each had. The best tech, the best minds, the best protections, and each one was destroyed not by weapons, but by curiosity. They tried to look into a human mind through the ship, and the ship looked back. Tevel included a theory in his report that the Hecate had evolved beyond defense. 'Twas now a living riddle, a kind of test. It waited in silence, and those who approached it had to face their deepest fears. If they survived, they left broken. If they didn't, they were never heard from again. He finished the report with one final line: humanity didn't win by force. They won by being unknowable. The report spread quickly in secret. Governments denied reading it, but new warnings started appearing. In space maps: caution, cognitive hazard sector, do not approach. Even the most curious scientists stopped asking questions. But there were always those who didn't listen: smugglers, pirates, lonely explorers who thought the stories were lies or legends. They wanted to test their luck, prove they were braver than the rest. And one day, a young alien named Kavrik, flying a small cargo ship, found himself near a strange signal. It was soft, not loud or strong. It sounded like music's, slow, sad, and beautiful. He followed it without thinking. It felt like it was calling only to him after a few hours. His ship's sensors picked up something, a massive shape in the dark, cold and silent. The signal came from there. Kavrik didn't know what it was. He hadn't grown up with the fear that others knew. He hadn't heard the name Hecate. To him, it was just an old ship, maybe valuable, maybe full of tech he could sell. So he flew closer, drawn in by the soft music and the quiet blinking. "Light near the hull," he whispered. "Hello?" Into the comes. There was no reply, just the music. And then, a voice. It didn't come through the speaker. It came inside his head. It said, "You are not ready." Kaverick froze. His hands started shaking. He turned to look at the window, and the ship's shape changed. It didn't move. But somehow, it felt different, like it was turning to face him. Like it was alive, and watching. His computer screen glitched, showing flashes of places he'd never seen. War, destruction, crying children, dead stars, ruined worlds. Then he saw himself older, scared, alone. He screamed and turned the ship around, pushing engines to full. He didn't care where he was going. He just wanted to leave. When he finally landed on a nearby moon, he was shaking and sweating. He checked the ship logs. There was no music recorded, no signal trace, no proof the ship had ever been there, except for one file on his dashboard. A still image, a dark shape in space, and in small, glowing words, "Forget me." Back on Earth, in the human command base, Alina Voss received an alert. Someone had touched the Hecate's edge again. She read the signal logs and smiled sadly. It hadn't attacked. It hadn't pulled him in. It had simply warned him and let him go. The ship was learning restraint. It was no longer just defending or punishing. It was beginning to choose, to test, to decide. And that made it even more dangerous. Alina looked at the screen, showing the Hecate floating in the void, so still, so silent. But anyone who had seen its heaven for a second would never forget it, because the ship didn't kill with fire or guns. It killed with truth, the kind no one wanted to hear, the kind that showed you what you really are. And in the quiet corners of space, the name Hecate was no longer spoken. Not out of respect, but out of fear. Because even saying the name made people dream things they didn't understand, and no one wanted the Hecate to look back. Many years passed, but no one forgot the ship. The HSS Hecate still floated in deep space, quiet and alone. It didn't send signals, didn't move, didn't chase anyone, and yet it was feared more than any fleet, any weapon, or any enemy. By now, the galaxy had changed. New alliances had formed. Old wars had ended. But the name Hecate remained a ghost in the back of every leader's mind, a warning, a shadow, a secret no one dared to explore again. The Galactic Council never spoke of it officially, but every race, in private, updated their star maps to mark its location with a red X. Some added a message beside it: "Do not scan, do not approach, do not think." In human space, the files about Project Thanatos were locked away. Even Commander Alina Voss, now retired and living in silence, never opened them again. She had seen what happened to those who got too close. She had watched brave soldiers break and curious minds disappear, and she knew the truth. The Hecate wasn't just a ship anymore. It was something else. Some called it a warning, some called it a test, but Alina believed it was a mirror, one that showed the deepest parts of the soul, human or alien, then reflected it back in ways the mind couldn't handle. And now it was evolving. It wasn't just reacting anymore. It was choosing, watching, waiting. One day, a strange signal came through a forgotten satellite network. It was old, weak, full of static, but when decoded, it contained something terrifying, an image. It showed the Hecate again, but different. Its shape had changed slightly, as if it had grown. There was also a message written in several languages at once, including human English. "I have learned enough. I will now rest. But if I am awakened again, the next lesson will be final." The council panicked. What did it mean? Was the ship sleeping? Or planning something? And who or what was it waiting for? Alina, older now, was brought in once more. She stared at the message and sighed. "It's giving them a chance," she said softly. "The Hecate knows what it is. It knows it was born from our fears, our secrets, our need for control. Now, it's giving the galaxy a choice: leave it alone, or face what comes next. A debate broke out. Some leaders wanted to destroy it before it woke up again. Others said that was suicide. No one had ever survived a direct attack against the Hekanaut with weapons, not even with thoughts. So in the end, they agreed to do nothing but hope. Hope that no one would ever touch it again, but in a quiet sector of space. Far from the busy lanes and patrols, a small freighter drifted through the stars. Inside was a teenage girl named Nara. She wasn't a soldier or a scientist. She was a scavenger. Her parents had died years ago in a pirate raid, and she'd been flying alone ever since. One day, her ship's sensors picked up a faint pulse. Hold. Hidden, weak, she followed it. Curious, she didn't know what it was. Didn't know the stories. She had never heard of the Hek-8. All she saw was an abandoned ship, floating quietly, waiting. She brought her ship closer and stared through the window. It was the most beautiful and terrifying thing she had ever seen. Large, sharp, and strange-like. It didn't belong to this time or place. She didn't scan it, didn't try to land. She just looked, and the ship looked back. But this time, it didn't show pain or fear or death. It showed her. Herself, alone in the stars, searching, lost. Then it showed her something else. A place, far away, full of light, safety, and family. And a voice not loud, not cold, but soft, gentle, it said, "Go there. Live. You are not ready for me yet." Nara's ship turned slowly, her hands on the controls. She didn't know why she was crying, but she was. Not from fear, but from something else. It felt like the ship had understood her, not tested, not broken, not judged, just understood and let her go. Later, when she reached the place the Hek-8 had shown her, she found a small colony. They welcomed her, gave her a home. She never spoke about the dark ship she had seen, but sometimes, in her dreams, she saw it again floating in space, watching silently, and she whispered, "Thank you." Back in the depths of space, the Hek-8 remained still. It had chosen to be quiet, to rest, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because it had finally learned the truth that sometimes the greatest weapon is not destruction, but choice. And now the galaxy knew better. Even the smartest aliens, the strongest warriors, the bravest explorers, all of them had learned the same lesson. Some things are not meant to be touched. Some truths are not meant to be known. And some ships are better left alone.